Hi there, this is the Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another Top 10 video. Today I'd like to do a Top 10 video of the Coen brothers. Now the Coen brothers perhaps are one of those group of filmmakers that are maybe you either like them or you don't like them. Maybe critics of them might say that they're more style over substance, that their films aren't particularly about things, but I don't really think that's particularly either true or a negative. When you actually take away their films such as The Lady Killers, which the less mentioned the better, and Intolerable Cruelty, their batting average, or the average quality of their films, is very high, and you could probably put them against most everybody's other film directors' canon of work. Yeah, I mean, for some people they might be a little bit too quirky or a little bit too stylized, but for me they are amongst my favourite filmmakers. So without further ado, let us start with number 10. And number 10 is True Grit. This is obviously on a double Blu-ray with No Country for Old Men. Spoiler alert, that will come later in the top 10. But let's just briefly talk about True Grit. This is obviously a remake of the John Wayne film, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I have to admit that I'm not a huge John Wayne fan. So for me, I would rather watch the Coen brothers version of True Grit than the John Wayne True Grit. Jeff Bridges gives another brilliant mumbling performance, right up there with Crazy Heart and Seventh Son. I think that's what that film is called. Matt Damon, who again I'll hold my hands up and say not the biggest fan of, he gives a lovely little performance as a Texas Ranger. And Josh Brolin, who we don't actually see very often as the villains, gives a lovely little performance. And Haley Steinfeld really gives a nice performance as the little girl who hires Jeff Bridges' character to find her father's killer. Because in a lot of films, children can be quite annoying, but she's actually quite strong, single-minded, and gives a little turn. Like quite a lot of their films, it does look amazing, thanks to Roger Deakins' cinematography. Roger Deakins must be right up there in the greatest DPs of all time. Again, there's a great love for language, as there always is in Coen brothers films. It's beautifully structured, and it's just a lovely little film. Yeah, the cinematography in it is almost kind of old photography, the greys and browns. I'm not actually sure there's a word, old photography, but I'm going to use it anyway. So that's number 10, True Grit. Number 9 is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Now you could argue this is a musical. Again, it's quirky. It's beautifully shot. It has that kind of washed out kind of, again, greens and browns. The Coen brothers do love their greens and browns. Loosely based on Homer's Odyssey, as much as it can be. George Clooney gives a fantastic twitchy performance. George Clooney is a bit similar to Brad Pitt in my opinion. Once he kind of uglifies himself, he's far more interesting than his quote kind of pretty boy roles. John Turturro, who's one of the most underrated actors in the business, is absolutely fantastic. John Goodman, who's a Coen Brothers regular, gives a demonstrative turn. Michael Badalucci, again a bit of a Coen Brothers regular, gives a fantastic performance as well. Again, this is fairly zany. It's pretty much a musical almost. The soundtrack sold rather well. Yeah, again, the kind of common theme running through Coen Brothers films is kind of their love of language, and again, the script for this is fantastic. They do have a habit of creating kind of their own language, and this is just a fantastic little film. So number 8 is their debut, Blood Simple. This is a little hard-boiled noir about cheating wives and murderous husbands, and it's amazingly assured for their first theatrical release. And this is where Joel Coen met Frances McDormand and started not only their private relationship but their working relationship as well. And again, I think this might have been her first film as well. She'd done a lot of theatre work, but this might be her first film. And again, she gives a fantastic performance, as does Dan Hedia, and of course Emmett Walsh, who's absolutely fantastic as a private eye, who has the most amazing yellow suit. And with quite a few Coen Brothers films, it has a fantastic ending. It has a kind of fantastic last line, fantastic last shot. And it does actually have nice interviews on this Studio Canal release. And again, this was a really small budget, so it's really fascinating to hear the tricks they used to actually get the film made. I would say maybe one of the downsides of the Coen Brothers is they don't tend to do like commentaries and things on their releases of their films, which is fair enough, but they are such a fascinating pair, because apparently during the filmmaking process, you know, they almost don't have to communicate. They just kind of almost know what each other is thinking, and they just kind of make decisions by going away and chatting and giggling a lot. So maybe they don't want to give their secrets away, but I think it would be interesting to have more of an insight about them, but then maybe that's part of the mystery of them, where they get their ideas. I mean, because again, critics might say, well, all their films are pretty much riffs on genres that have already been done, and it's just their own take on it. For example, you know, film noir or western or Capra-esque films or screwball comedies or gangster films, but I just think they put their own spin on it, because they are fairly unique in their style. Yeah, I'll try and stop rambling. But this is Blood Simple. At number 7, which might be a surprise, is The Man Who Wasn't There, which is kind of a fitting title because this is pretty much, I would say, arguably their most underrated film, and it's possibly a film that nobody's actually aware that they made. Frances McDormand again, Billy Bob Thornton as a barber. Honest, it's better than I'm making it sound. Again, this is a lovely little black and white film set in the 40s possibly, and it's about a barber who gets mixed up in something. Not going to spoil it for those that haven't seen it. Again, James Gandolfini gives a fantastic performance in it, as does Michael Badalucci as Billy Bob Thornton's barbering partner. John Polito, another Coen Brothers regular, gives a fantastic little performance as a businessman or a shyster. Scarlett Johansson is in it as a piano playing prodigy that Billy Bob Thornton takes a shine to in the second half of the film. And Tony Shalhoub is absolutely fantastic as a motor-mouthed lawyer. It's just a crazed performance, but it's fantastic. And again, it's the language, the script is just fantastic. It looks beautiful, but it's not any surprise for people who really love scripts and really love the kind of history of Hollywood in the 30s and 40s, where the scripts were just full of zingers and went at breakneck speed as far as the dialogue's concerned. This is a great film, and it deserves kind of more attention, because I think it has kind of been forgotten about. So number 6 is Fargo, and again, this might be low on people's lists. Again, please let me know in the comments, or provide me with your own top 10 Coen Brothers films. I would be interested to see them. This is Fargo, and don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic film. It's just not one of my... well, there's 5 more Coen Brothers films that I prefer. But this is just a beautiful film. Again, Frances McDormand, who won the Oscar, or she should have won the Oscar. It was certainly nominated for. Steve Buscemi is fantastic in it, and obviously William H. Macy is absolutely hilarious in it. Again, everybody should know the story by now. It spawned 3 television series. Again, it's absolutely beautiful. The soundtrack is beautiful. Again, the Coen Brothers usually have a kind of a travelling circus of collaborators, and Carter Burwell usually does their music. And the music, the score on Fargo has a kind of melancholy, lost innocence about it, which is perfectly suitable for the film. Again, well constructed, great script, and this is probably, you know, again, one of the criticisms of the Coen Brothers people have is their films, yeah, they're quirky and they're cool and they're funny, but they maybe lack kind of emotional depth. Well, this is the one that doesn't lack emotional depth. It's actually, at the end, it's quite moving, and it does actually have a lot to say about modern life and the value of modern life. This is a great film, but it shows you how good the Coen Brothers are, because it's only at number 6. Oh, I miscounted. Yes, it's only at number 6. So number 5 is back to the double one. It's No Country for Old Men. Now, I really do love this film, but there's one scene in it that irritates me. Obviously I'm not going to tell you what it is, it's near the end of the film, and maybe I'm not that clever, but I'm not really sure the point of it, or what they were trying to say with it. But apart from that scene, it would be higher in the list. I love the ending. Obviously the way it looks is beautiful. I love the fact that there's hardly any score, if any score at all. Certainly, you know, in today's cinema, there's usually, if there's not dialogue, there's always music. It's as if filmmakers are scared of silence. And I think the reason I love No Country for Old Men is the fact there's plenty of silence, and there's no, you know, musical cues for every single thing that's happening. Josh Brolin gives a fantastic performance as somebody who finds some money out in the desert after a drug deal gone bad, and somebody's coming to collect, and that person is Javier Bardem, who, again, I'm not sure whether he won an Oscar, or he's certainly nominated for an Oscar. I'll admit I don't really keep up with the Oscars as much as I used to. Yeah, it's just a wonderful, wonderful film. Woody Harrelson turns up and gives a nice little performance. Again, it's just the feeling. It's obviously pretty much just like a Western. Tommy Lee Jones, I almost completely forgot about. He's the world-weary ranger after, or he's always kind of cleaning up afterwards. He never kind of gets there in time to prevent anything, so he's pretty much just cleaning up the mess. There's so many great scenes, again, amazing dialogue, and as an audience, our kind of preconceived ideas of how the film should end, or perhaps just our need for the film to end in a certain way, just because that's how we're used to films ending, by the conventional way. The Coen brothers in this film deny us that. If you watch the film, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Again, I don't really want to give spoilers away, but I just love the fact that they don't actually do the kind of cliched ending, and it's a great film. But again, that one scene kind of stops me from putting it any higher. Not that it's a bad scene, but it just didn't really work for me, but maybe that's just my problem. Please let me know in the comments below if you know what scene I'm talking about, and what you think of it. So number 4, the top 10 Coen Brothers films, is Barton Fink, which is just, again, another beautiful film, beautiful dialogue, and it's essentially about writer's block. It stars John Turturro as a theatre writer who's slightly pretentious, who has success on Broadway, and ends up in Hollywood as a writer with big aspirations about doing socio-political films, and ends up making Wallace Beery wrestling pictures, which he just doesn't understand. And John Goodman, who lives in the same hotel, who kind of keeps putting him off his work. Again, that's not a very good description of it, but it's just a wonderful little world that the Coen brothers build, as they always do, and it looks amazing, the dialogue's amazing, the performances are fantastic. Again, it has a wonderful ending, and again, it's about something. It's about, creative problems and how do you get over the hump, how do you keep producing work. Does your work have to say something? Can it just be entertainment? Michael Lerner gives a fantastic performance as the studio head. John Pleto again gives a lovely little performance. Just a great film, and yeah, an essential film in the Coen brothers canon. Steve Buscemi's in it as well, another regular. Fantastic. Barton Fink. At number 3, it's the Hudsucker Proxy, which might be a little bit high on my list compared to other people's, but I just love this little film. For kids. This is a Frank Capra homage, shall we say. Again, looks fantastic. Again, like The Man Who Wasn't There, I think it is criminally underrated. Tim Robbins gives a fantastic performance. Paul Newman is wonderful in it. Charles Durning is awesome. Jennifer Jason Leigh is wonderful as a fast-talking newspaper reporter who bets her Pulitzer Prize on everything that happens just so she can mention the fact she's won the Pulitzer Prize. But Tim Robbins just gives a fantastic performance as, quite frankly, a doofus who is a bit dim-witted and is used as a patsy, but then eventually actually gets the point. So this has been done before. Obviously Capra, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. So there's no denying that this is a homage and heavily inspired by those Capra films, but the Coen brothers just put their own spin on it. So there's obviously an absurdist element to it. The dialogue is just amazing, rapid fire. The way Hollywood used to make films in the 30s and 40s. The scripts were just so sharp and quick-witted. Yeah, this definitely deserves to be seen. It's just a great wee film, and it's about the hula hoop. That's all I'm going to say. So number 2 is The Big Lebowski. Now, what can you say about The Big Lebowski? Jeff Bridges, in arguably his best performance, where allegedly he's actually just playing himself. How he didn't get an Oscar for it, I don't really know, because it's an amazing performance. Julianne Moore, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro with one of the greatest cameos in cinema history. It's kind of a detective story, kind of, but it's an absurdist kind of detective story involving kidnapping and ransoms and bowling, obviously. There's dream sequences in it. There's violence in it. There's a very nice ferret in it. It's amazingly quotable. It's just a fantastic film. But again, with the Coen brothers, it's probably one of those films you either love or you hate, or you just don't get it. I know of people that have seen it and just don't get it at all. But it's absolutely fantastic. It all stems from the confusion over the name Lebowski, and Jeff Bridges and his friends just get involved in a bizarre kidnapping gone wrong plot, which doesn't really make much sense, and it doesn't really have to, because it's not really about the plot, it's about the characters. And again, an amazing script by the Coens. Yeah, I mean, a line that kind of sums it up is a character picks up a bowling ball and asks what it is, and Jeff Bridges says, "Obviously you're not a golfer." That's The Big Lebowski at number 2 in the top 10 Coen Brothers films. Now, can anybody guess what number 1 is? I think the Coen Brothers made 17 films, so I had to get rid of 7 films didn't make it into the top 10. So what could possibly be number 1? It's Miller's Crossing. Simply put, it's perfect, in my opinion. It's one of those films that is immediately in my top 10 of all time conversation. It's just amazing. When you consider this was their 3rd film after they did Raising Arizona, which didn't make the top 10. So they made Raising Arizona, which is a lovely little screwball comedy, madcap, caper film, and then they make this, which is their least quirky film. For example, I know somebody who's a big Coen Brothers fan, but they just don't like this film at all, which is bizarre to me. But it is their least quirky film. It's certainly not, it doesn't have a lot of humour in it, but it's just so amazing. It's also about 1920s gangsters. It looks amazing. They pretty much invent their own slang, so the script is just wonderful. They pretty much invent their own slang. There's no swearing in it, but there is just such rich slang and kind of abuse. It's really hard to describe and put into words how fantastic this film is. When you're talking about the greatest films of all time, you're talking about films that every scene is perfect. Every moment is perfect, every performance is perfect, the score is perfect. It's complex enough that you actually have to pay attention to what's going on, and the Coen Brothers expect you to be able to pay attention to what's going on. The performances are fantastic. Gabriel Byrne and John Polito, Marcia Gay Harden, John Turturro, Albert Finney. I just can't impress enough how great this film is. And I urge everybody to see it. It's just amazing and beautiful and endlessly quotable as well, because the script's just fantastic. So that brings me to the end of the Coen Brothers top 10 films. I apologise if I've went on a ramble a little bit. So please leave a like if you liked. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Please do leave any comments to tell me where I went wrong, or whether you agree with me. And we'll see you again. This is the Solitary Ronin saying good night and have a good evening.